Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Alan Barry Labakan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. This is my weekend show on Sunday evening. I've got several topics to talk about. Then I'm going to move into some picks. I've got a special situation pick. I'll have some quick updates on some of my top of mind picks and my unicorn picks. And as always, in the description of this video, I'll include all of the picks so that you can look at them in the various different categories that I have them in. So let's get right off to it. I started the note on this as in a shocking turn of events, and I really don't know how shocking it should be, but even sometimes the government surprises me. And the shocking turn of events was that since the government shutdown ended, uh, that the White House is saying that October jobs and CPI numbers may never be reported. Now, how bad can they be if they're trying to blame or to avoid reporting the October jobs and the CPI? When it all comes down to it, one of the key reasons that I'm so bullish on gold of late, or a contributing factor to my long-term bullishness, is that stagflation is starting to come in. And the fact that they don't want to put out the jobs or the CPI, I think, tells us that inflation is worse than what they hope for, and the jobs are worse than they had hoped for, and therefore it's pretty clear that the stagflation genie's out of the bottle. Now they can blame it on the shutdown, which is ridiculous, as the BLS could easily get the data to put those numbers out, even if they needed substantial revisions later. I mean, they keep on doing those revisions on a constant basis. So, this idea that they can't give you the jobs or the CPI is pretty ridiculous. The real reason for the cover up is that the jobs numbers and inflation are worse than the government wants to publish. I've been saying that stagflation is a growing problem for several months, and this cover up is all the evidence one needs. Ignoring October won't make the problems go away. In the real economy, the jobs market is in free fall and inflation is growing as the tariff tax is working its way through the supply chain. If you want to know what is happening in the real market, just watch the actions of voters. And in the recent elections, the Democrats won in a big way. The key topic that was on their minds was affordability. Voters are stretched and they're feeling the pain of the weakness in the jobs market and the persistent inflation that's growing. And that has them worried. Trump felt it and is ready to cut tariffs, taxes on certain stuff that voters have brought up the most of late, like beef and things like that. I even think they're going to cut, well, they said coffee, I think bananas or something like that. Well, if the tariffs weren't a tax and didn't cause inflation, why do they have to stop them on those particular products? Well, the reason is because they're passed on to consumers, and that's why it's a tax. And it also causes slower economic growth. Now, of course, Besant was out there saying, "Well, we inherited all this inflation." Well, that's not exactly true, Mr. Besant. The tariffs, the additional taxes on consumers are to blame for a lot of this of late. So, you can't really blame the last of the Biden administration and for what you're facing now due to tariffs. Of course, you could say that one could also say that the inflation during the Biden administration was due to the Trump before Trump 1.0. So That's the usual thing out of politicians is, when they try to be economic kind of people, try to be politicians as well. The talking point was that tariffs, tax didn't cause inflation, and this selective action to cut them on certain stuff is an allowed acknowledgement that they do. Anybody that thinks foreign countries are going to pay it are delusional. The tariffs are paid when it lands in America. That goes to whoever ordered it in America, not some foreign government or foreign company. Um, I've been reading about the AI a lot lately, and the buildup is having issues with supplies, causing some bottlenecks. Earlier today, I was reading about one of those bottlenecks is energy, and that makes me think they're going to need a lot of copper in order to build out this AI efforts. And they're going to ultimately do that because even though the valuations of AI stocks are quite stretched, and they're having needing to borrow money to keep the capital expenditures up to build out the AI infrastructure. The reality is that they are also making money. They have free cash flow, enough free cash flow to pay for the debt. So I don't see the AI bubble bursting in a way like when the tech wreck happened or the dot bomb era. But I do think that they've been stumbling due to folks questioning the valuations and the circular accounting. And so, being priced to perfection in that kind of an environment doesn't make any sense. So for them to come off some makes a lot more sense. Anglo Gold blew out the quarter this week. I just read up on their quarterly report. They increased free cash flow by 141% year over year for the quarter. Not many industries are seeing that kind of free cash flow growth. Anglo went from net debt in the same quarter last year to net cash of 450 million in Q3, which is absolutely stunning. The chart looks really strong as it has gone through the left side of the cup bottom and is now going up the right side of the cup. So we'll be keeping an eye on Anglo Gold. Um, Despite the impressive moves in gold and silver, the precious metal stocks from the majors to the juniors have not really priced in the current prices of gold and silver. They're trading like gold was still at around $2,500 per ounce and silver around $35 per ounce. They certainly haven't started pricing in much higher prices of gold and silver that I see coming. And this is creating a phenomenal buying opportunity. One example of that is Vizsla Silver, which is a sponsor of my report. They have a fantastic project at Panuco, and recently they had their feasibility study out, and it looks fantastic. Very triple digits in free cash flow, and uh, they are going to be, I think they've got I call it a unicorn silver project. And when I call a company a unicorn, what that means is like, I don't need to see a tier one project belong to a junior to call it a unicorn. What I call a unicorn is in the vein of what is happening, or what the tech stocks call companies that have phenomenal success. And so if I see a company that has a project that I think can lead them to phenomenal success, then that's what I consider a unicorn. And the Panuco project is one of those. It will, once they bring it into production, it will drive them to be one of the, I think, top five silver producers in the world with a very low cost of producing silver and gold, and that will make them a free cash flow machine. and with a payback of their 225 million to build it, to be paid back in a matter of a few months if you use the current price of silver. Of course, that's not what they used in the feasibility study, but because they're not allowed to. But nonetheless, if you can use those sensitivities, and it comes out quite spectacular. Another thing that they're waiting on is they've been drilling their animus target, and I think their animus target is going to be their next great discovery. The economics that drive their project are based on the Napoleon and Copala veins. And I think Animus could be another one that fits into that quite nicely. And they're also going underground to do a bulk sample. Now, the nice thing about that underground workings is it's pre-production, so it'll be able to get them down to uh, start of where they would start mining once they get all of their permits in. So, it's got a fantastic story. I think you should do your homework on it. And that's the Vizsla example. Now, looking at gold and silver, I was talking about them looking like they're forming a U-shaped recovery. So they went down pretty hard after reaching the record highs, and the chart for silver is very similar to gold. And then they started this U-shaped recovery. Now, in the last couple trading days, they've come off of that, but I think that it's looking pretty ready to break out and create some new record highs very quickly here. I'm seeing a higher low being put in here, and yeah, usually when we've had that kind of recovery and then a higher low, I love seeing that. Let's take a look at the silver because that is actually a more indicative of a U-shaped recovery. It went down, flattened out, and then popped up to trade above the left side of that U. And so now it's had a couple of days of some profit taking and pressure. And if, it's spectacularly high or low, then down here. So I'm expecting some real good things for the prices of gold and silver. But while precious metal stocks are still very cheap, considering the free cash flow the miners are generating and the value that the gold and silver in the ground is being valued at for the developers and explorers, means to me that, we're still very early in a precious metals bull market. Um, you look at the free cash flow and what they're being priced at, what you have to pay for that free cash flow. It's very, very reasonable. And then you look at how values of gold and silver in the ground for developers and explorers are being on those metrics as well. They're near historical lows. So the precious metal stocks have a lot higher to go, in my opinion. Now, copper is something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And there has been a recent study. Well, hold on a second. So I think it's primed for a big run. Um, when just this week there was some reports out by Wall Street analysts calling for over a 500,000 ton deficit in 2026 that just keeps on staying that way for many years. So this view that I think that copper's going up a long way is not wishful thinking, as the supply chain is in very poor condition to meet the demands that are going out there. Major mines are having significant problems. We've seen problems at Grasberg. We've seen issues at other big mines, Kamoa-Kakula, a year and a half ago or so, the big mine in Panama was shut down. So these major mining companies are having issues at their big mines. And there are not nearly enough mines in the development stages to replace those old mines and no ability to help increase production. And this is going to be a big problem for a long time, as can be seen. This issue of not enough great development projects in the pipeline, can, that it will be a long-term problem, is if you then look at the discoveries. There's some charts going out. You can look them up on the on a Google search. The discoveries of important discoveries have basically fallen off the chart in the last 20 to 25 years. And that's where the development projects come from, is when you've had an important copper discovery, it then ends up being a development project and a future mine. The fact that the discoveries have fallen off the cliff in the last 20 to 25 years tells you why there's not enough projects in the discovery development stages. And it also tells you that this supply problem is going to be around for decades, couple decades easily. Now, if we can see a much higher price of copper, then that would help those developers get their projects into production, which would help the majors if they can acquire them, so that they can at least replace or try to somewhat replace their old aging mines. But it's probably not enough to do that. And so, at a time when we're seeing a whole bunch more demand coming from things like electric vehicles, cryptocurrencies, cloud computing, um, rebuilding the grid, the power grid, in order to service those industries and also build power grids in developing economies, we need a lot more copper. And when you have supply problems like that, the net result is you're going to see a lot higher prices in copper. So I really think that 2026 is going to be an exceptional year for copper. For it to get over $6 in 2026 would not surprise me at all, which would put a whole new spotlight on the developers and the explorers. And so let me talk about some of my copper picks. I've got two that are on the high part of my list for developers, and two that are my favorite explorers. So on my favorite developers is one is McEwen Inc., which is in my category of unicorn picks. They are my unicorn pick for copper. And why that is they just recently did a feasibility study on their Los Azules project, and it came out with a $2.11 per pound all-in sustaining cost to produce copper at Los Azules. If you look at the current price, that's almost $3 per pound of free cash flow. Then you look at 400,000 pounds of production per year. That's over $1 billion of free cash flow. Now, bear in mind that McEwen Inc. owns about 50% of that. So let's say that that's about $600 million in free cash flow to their bottom line. The company has a valuation that's close to that. So I make the case that they're undervalued just because of their copper project. But then you look at their gold projects, and although their current mines are high cost mines, they're still making money. Okay, at producing it at $2,500 an ounce and selling it at $4,000 an ounce, you make good money on that, even if it's only about 120,000 ounces per year. So does that deserve a zero valuation? Absolutely not. But what I'm really excited about on their gold mining side of the business is they're bringing the stock mine into production this year in 2026. They're also doing important exploration on their projects in Ontario, especially on their Grey Fox discovery, which looks like it's going to grow to well over its current 2 million ounce resource in all categories, and grow beyond, well beyond that, because they're doing a lot of drilling there. They're also doing a lot of drilling in Nevada, and in particular, they've started drilling on their they started drilling on a new project, and it's escaping my mind at the moment. And it really shouldn't escape my mind because I was part of the company that originally staked that project about 20 years that led to it belonging to McEwen Inc. And oh gosh, I wish I could remember it, but they've started drilling. They notified everybody on Twitter. So go to McEwen Inc.'s Twitter and you'll see the talking about the started drilling on one of their goal projects. And so, yeah, I mean, however you look at McEwen Inc., I think got a very attractive value proposition that's mainly driven by their copper project, but they also got good things happening on the gold mining side of things into the near future, especially 2026 when the stock mine gets turned on to full capacity, and then there's drilling that they're doing. So that's the McEwen Inc. story. Oh, I forgot to bring their stock up. Let me bring that up. There you go. Recently hit a high of about $35 a share. This is in the Canadian listing. And then it came down like a lot of mining stocks with the price of gold and silver getting softer. Uh, Got slightly below the 50-day, came up above it, got down again below it again on Friday, but it traded below it during the day and then it recovered to be above the 50-day. I like this combination of a golden cross, the 50-day on a very bullish trajectory, and the 200-day going on a bullish trajectory. So lots of good things happening with McEwen. The next company I'm going to talk about is Foran. Now, I always seem to have one or two or three picks that are in the late stages of the Lassonde curve development discount window and that are moving into the sweet spot where they're building it and then they're going to put it into production. Some of my recent ones in that category over the last few years were Silvercrest and Mag Silver, and they were great successful picks. And ultimately, they were both bought out in the last year or so. Mag Silver most recently, and so this is my pick for copper because they're bringing their VMS system into production. And I picked them as they were starting to come off this low, think right about here. Since then, they had a beautiful breakout, came down of late, and then they've been putting out reports about how they're progressing to bring their McIlvenna mine into production in full commercial production in 2026. So they've gone through a golden cross of late, and this is my what I consider my next great pick for a company that goes up the right side of the Lassonde curve as they bring an exceptional mine into production. And I talk about Pierre Lassonde and his Lassonde curve a lot, and it's a good vote of confidence that Pierre Lassonde himself is a shareholder of Foran. And also another indicator that of how good this project is, Agnico Eagle, which is one of the best gold mining and one of my top picks for major gold miners, is also a significant, big shareholder in Forad. Now, why that's important is that the the mine, McIlvenna mine, is very similar to one of the great mines that helped build Agnico Eagle up to the big success that they are today. Okay. So this has all the same geological characteristics of that great Laurent mine. And so, you've got two votes of confidence there of big entities that have done their homework on Foran. And this is another reason, including the economics of their project, their mine, of why I think it's going to be my next great pick for a company that goes up the right side of the Lassonde curve. All right. And so now I'm going to get into uh, my favorite explorers. I always like having exploration because they can be hit it out of the park home runs. And I think that Kirkland Lake Discoveries has the potential to be one of those big successes. Now, why do I say that? Well, they're in Kirkland Lake. They have a very large land package. And on that land package, they have what is a big intrusion. So, this big block of rock that comes up from deep in the Earth's crust and makes its way up to the surface. These intrusions are what makes up all the great mines in and around Kirkland Lake. Okay, I think the statistic is something like 40 million ounces of gold have been produced in the Kirkland Lake camp. Okay, and so these intrusion related systems are very important. And Kirkland Lake Discoveries has a 17-kilometer intrusion. Now, what's exciting about that is at the contact between the intrusion and the country rock, the whole perimeter of the 17-kilometer, it's shaped like an egg. In that 17-kilometer perimeter of that egg, they've found mineralization on the contact, but they've also found gold mineralization. Now, it's only a couple holes and it's really early days, but they've even found gold mineralization inside of the intrusion. So when I first looked at that big intrusion, I said, well, is it going to be responsible for the all the gold around it, and that would be called an intrusion related, or is there going to be mineralization inside of the intrusion as well? And it looks like the answer to that is both. Now, inside of the intrusion has been a gold discovery, and on the perimeter of the intrusion is where they've found high grade copper. So it's got a very good mix, and then not far away from it is also a orogenic gold discovery that I think is underexplored. And so they've got this large land package. It also has VMS discoveries on it, and in the past, in fact, that's what this project was thought of, was a VMS system. So it didn't get the attention it needed because this area was always thought of to be intrusion related systems are what you're looking for. So there was some VMS found out distal to the intrusion. And so it's got this mix of VMS, intrusion related, orogenic. I think it's a fantastic project. I can't wait for them to start their 25,000 meter drill program that they recently announced that they were going to do that. And we're probably only about a week away from that big drill program. Oh, I forgot to put their stock chart up. We're only a week or so away from that starting up. So stay tuned for more news out of Kirkland Lake. Discoveries, as I said, I think I said I'm a shareholder. They've had a beautiful golden cross here. The trajectory on the 50 day is very impressive, as is the trajectory on the 200 day. And what this was all about, this big move here, where it stayed pretty much entirely above the 50-day moving average for that since back in July, is because of the success that they're having with their the I think it was about 10 drill hole program in this the perimeter of the big intrusion I keep mentioning, and also inside of it. And so it's now it's only traded two times down to the 50-day moving average. It's kind of been going sideways while they were doing a big financing and about to get the drilling started. But I think it's got a great chance for a substantial breakout. And this is sort of one of my swing for the fences explorers. But when I swing for the fences, I try to swing for the fences on good pitches. And looking at all the geology of this project, I believe that this is a very good pitch to take a swing at knocking it out of the ballpark. All right. Another of my explorers for copper that I'm very excited about is Sterling Metals. Sterling Metals is very early into drilling their project in Ontario, near Batchewana Bay, Ontario. But what I've seen out of this project from the early drilling is quite spectacular. And the market really loved those drill results. As you can see, it just absolutely blasted off. It started firming up. It had its golden cross back here, started firming up when they were drilling. And then when they announced their drill results, it just absolutely gapped up. Now, when a stock gaps up like that, of course, there's going to be some profit taking. But what I like to see when when a stock spikes up like that is how much of the gain they're able to maintain. And the fact that it's only seeing this modest profit taking is reflective, in my opinion, of the quality of what they have found. And now they're doing, I think it's about a $10 million financing. So that'll load them up with cash to, they also have some more drill results pending. So that financing will load them up with cash to get drilling again. And so I believe very strongly in this project because of what I'm seeing in the drill holes. Um, they've got the high grade copper minerals that are important, and they've got a lot of it. And so it tells me that this is a very big system, and as they drill more into it and understand more about it and where to target, I think that this is going to be a big successful project as well. I am a shareholder of it. It's about 25 cents below my average cost, but I didn't buy this because I thought I was going to find a company with a 10 or 10-15% upside or downside. I bought it because I think that this is going to be a very big winner. They only have about 45 or 50 million shares out, and it's tightly held. So this is the kind of company that, again, I think could be a knock it out of the ballpark kind of home run. And I think you want to take a look at them. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a special situations pick. And my special situations pick is a company called Earth Labs. Earth Labs, as you can see, they kind of been riding the waves in the price of the gold and yeah, pretty much going sideways for the last year or so, year and a half. But I think that this company is it's very underappreciated what this company has. Okay. So, years ago they said that some of the big winners in the California gold rush and other gold rushes were those that were providing or selling the picks and shovels. And this company has kind of a picks and shovels kind of asset or group of assets, if you will. Um, they own the CEO.ca forum where a lot of investors in mining stocks go to talk about the stocks that they're involved in. They own mining.com. They own the Northern Miner, which was for a long time the Bible of people that were interested in mining. The Northern Miner has been in publication for over 100 years or so. So they've got these digital marketing assets. And anyone who's been watching my shows for any period of time knows that these days I am putting a lot more emphasis on how a company is using digital marketing. Okay. I always was, let's say, 80% focused on the project. Okay. That was my first, foremost, main thing that I paid attention to. And these days, I would say that digital marketing has worked away some of that percentage and is now second place for me as far as key factors that I look at when I'm looking at a company. Now, why do I say that? Well, these days, the internet, social media, places like X.com, formerly Twitter.com, or YouTube. These are places where investors congregate to talk about investments. Okay. And I liken it to be in like a 24-hour per day, 7 day a week, 365 day a year, um, online investor forum that's happening as we speak all the time. And so if a company isn't out there using those digital marketing tools to get their story out, well, they're not going to get the attention that they should. If they don't get the attention that they should, that means their stock price is usually going to be at a discount. And then when they have to go raise money, the cost of capital, which is their stock issued, they're going to have to issue more stock to get the money that they need. And so I think it's incumbent on mining companies to be using digital marketing tools. Now, a lot of them are kind of late to the game or reluctant to join the party, if you will, because they're kind of what I call stuck in the fax machine era. But those that do use those tools tend to have a better audience, a more informed audience, better valuation, which means a lower cost of capital. And so, what Earth Labs has with those digital marketing assets, and plus the stuff they do on X, the stuff they do on YouTube that goes out to their broader audience, is, the picks and shovels of modern day mining, which is digital marketing. Um, and so they've got those assets, and those assets look like they will make enough money to cover the cost and maybe even some profit beyond that of being a publicly traded company. That costs about $1 million a year to keep an active mining company listed on, in their case, the venture exchange. And so that asset, I believe, has the potential to not only cover their cost of being a public company, but also make them some money beyond that. Because as more mining companies realize that they need digital marketing tools, these guys at Earth Labs have those tools. All right. So I think that that can be a very lucrative business going forward. Now, what they also do is they've also, see, Earth Labs was started because there was a company called Goldspot that was in the artificial intelligence using artificial intelligence to help with exploration. And they sold that asset to ALS, which is one of the top labs in the world that does assays and other technical work for mining companies. So when they sold that, they got a bunch of money. And what they did with the cash is that they used that to build up a portfolio. So, like a venture capital company, of other junior mining companies. I think they might have some mid tiers, but I think they're mostly focused in the junior exploration side of things. And on that side of things, they have done very, very well. They are shareholders in some big success stories that have happened and are about to launch into even bigger successes. So they've used that money very wisely, but I don't think they're getting very much credit for that. And therefore, I think that this is a diversified way for investors that can't do all the homework. These guys, because of their digital marketing tools, have a flow of a flow of projects to look at and can sort of pick the cream of the crop, if you will. And so if an investor wants exposure to explorers and they don't have the time to do all that homework, they can hand it off to a company like an Earth Labs. And the beauty of Earth Labs is, as I said, they've also got this digital marketing division or wing of the company that I think could turn into a very lucrative venture as well. And so it's a very interesting, it's got some moving parts there, part venture capital, part digital marketing. But I think that this is a very undervalued story that a lot of investors should take a look at and do their homework on. Okay, so that is the Earth Lab story. And by the way, they're very close to having their next quarterly report out. And I think we'll get some insights into how the digital marketing business is going and how their venture capital portfolio is doing. And so stay tuned for that because I think I don't know exactly when it's out, but I think it's within let's say 10 days or so. So do your homework on Earth Labs. I think very highly of this company. I'm not currently a shareholder, but I do plan on being a very significant shareholder because I'm really impressed with the quality of the picks that these guys are making. In fact, we have some crossover. And for example, some of my unicorns and top of mind picks are these guys are big shareholders in as well. One of them, Borealis, for example, they bought even before it was a public company, and that company's trading at about $1.25 now. So they're up quite nicely on Borealis, and I think Borealis is going to be a real success story that we hear a lot more about. Okay, so I'm about 40 minutes into this show. Um, Unicorn picks, I've already talked about two of them, Vizsla Silver and McEwen Inc. Goliath Resources did a big drill program, has a bunch of assays pending, and I think they have one of the best new discovery. Well, I believe it is the best new discovery of high grade gold in the no, in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. And they just finished a 64,000-meter drill program, so they got a lot of assay results in the pipeline. So I think that they're going to have a lot of news out for the foreseeable next 6 months or so, 4 months, and then they'll start their next season of drilling. So a lot of news pending on Goliath Resources, and it is one of my highest conviction picks. Amex Exploration is a sponsor of my show, or my reporting. I got to thank them always for that because their sponsorship of my work helps me to be able to do all the work that I do for free to my audience. And so I want to thank them. But another reason I want to thank them is because they have such a fantastic project in Quebec. It's a super high grade. I don't think that's a technical term. It is a very high grade. Well, let me tell you how high grade it is. At their Champagne zone, it has an 850,000 ounce resource with an average grade of 16.2 grams per ton of gold. Those don't come around very often anymore, folks. And then in, also in that Champagne zone, they have an inferred resource of another 150,000 ounces at about a 10 gram cutoff, or sorry, a 10 gram average grade. And so, those don't come around very often. The company is doing permitting to do, in fact, I just recently had an interview with them. So go check out that interview to learn more about Amex. I could go on and on about the company because of the quality of the project, where it's located, the infrastructure around it, the optionality that they have because there's mines around, several mines around it that they could toll mill their early production for a few years out of. That's what they're going to do with their bulk sample. And so, yeah, do your homework on Amex and Goliath. Top of mind picks, Sokoman Minerals. Just had a chat with Denny Laviolette after he got back from his property visit. Very exciting developments happening at that company. They recently did a 20 million plus financing. And so they're going to be doing a lot of work in the not too distant future. And I'm a big shareholder of that company. This is another of my swing for the fences kind of companies that I'm a big shareholder of because I'm trying to hit it out of the park. They got a great team led by Denny Laviolette that they've all found a lot of gold in their careers. And I think they got a wonderful place to find a lot more gold at the Moosehead project in Newfoundland. And Newfoundland, I think, is going to be the Abitibi 2.0. It's got all the right geological characteristics as the Abitibi region. And I think that we could see one of the big new mines is by one of my other picks, which is Equinox at the Valentine Lake mine. And they've got not far up the road on this key structure that is where the Valentine Lake discovery is found. They've got a big stretch of that same big crack in the earth that the fluids that carry the gold need to follow up through. And so I think that Moosehead is a fantastic project, as do I think that the rest of their project ground is very impressive as well. And, I keep stressing that a guy like Denny Laviolette could basically go work anywhere for any company, including all the way up to the major miners. And he decided let me put their stock chart up so you can get a little info on what's happened since Denny Laviolette took over. He took over back around here and it's blasted up, had a big run, only gave back a small percentage of the gains. Been going sideways as they were doing this financing and about to start drilling. Just a tremendous trajectory, bullish trajectory on the 50-day moving average, busted through in a golden cross in a spectacular way. Now the 200-day moving average is on an equally as impressive bullish trend. And with drilling about to start any time now, I'm very excited about it. And Denny Laviolette and I will be starting a series of interviews about Sokoman in the not too distant future. So stay tuned for those. Do your homework on Sokoman Minerals. I think they got a lot of great things coming out. So my other top of mind picks, Sterling Meadows, Kirkland Lake Discoveries, Foran Mining, and Borealis Mining. I've already talked about those, so I don't even need to go over those again. So I'm not going to. All of my major precious metals miners, my mid tiers, my junior miners, my developers, and my explorers are all going to be in the description below. Um, One thing I wanted to add is that in the explorers, I'm always trying to rationalize my picks. And one of them I'm taking out of my current picks and moving it back to my radar screen, which is Dryden Gold. Now, why do I do that? Even though I really like the project that they have, it's because they are. My thesis for picking them was that by now the company would be rolling up their sleeves and going after the depth potential of their discovery near Dryden, Ontario. Instead, what they're doing is they're kind of staying focused within the first couple hundred meters of surface and trying to test a bunch of their projects or targets on their big land package. And in an orogenic gold system, the magic is found at depth. And until I hear that they're going to start going after the depth potential in a substantial way, I'm going to put them back on the radar screen. And so you won't see them in my current picks anymore. And Earth Labs will be going into, I'm putting them into the explorers because they kind of, their investments are all in the precious and base metal explorers. So that's why they'll go in the explorer category. All right. So now I'm getting ready to start there was some news out on companies. I think I might be able to get this show done in a little over an hour today, which is very exciting for me. Let's look at some of these news releases. Vizsla Silver. Vizsla Silver delivers positive feasibility study for the Panuco project. After-tax net present value of US $1.8 million, or 1.8 billion, I guess you could say. After-tax internal rate of return of 111%. Initial costs of US 173 million. Average annual production of 17.4 million ounces equivalent, silver equivalent, at an all-in sustaining cost of $10.61 per share or per ounce of silver equivalent. So, I mean, just breaking down that this information, 173 million capex. Okay, they've got over 200 and some million in the bank, plus another debt facility for a couple. Or they got another. Their total cash is a double the initial capital cost to bring this into production. Now you look at 17.4 million ounces of annual production. That puts them up into the top handful of major silver miners right out of the gate as they become a new miner. And I think they're planning on turning it on in around 2027. But then you look at the all-in sustaining cost of $10.61 per ounce of silver equivalent. Today, the silver is trading at about $50 an ounce, and I think it's got the ability to go much higher, let's say that. So even if it stayed at that price, you're making a lot of money per ounce after tax IRR, 111% based on the base case. Um, Let's go to the quote by Simon Smirlick, who's the chief operating officer of Vizsla Silver. Before I mention he's also been a mine builder at Ausenco for many years. He's actually the guy that built the Las Chispas mine for Silvercrest, which was a big successful pick for me when I picked them before they brought it into production. So, and not only that, they brought it in production on time and on budget when there was inflation kicked in and also the COVID situation. So Simon's a very talented mind builder. And he said, and I quote, the strength of the feasibility study reflects the technical excellence and commitment of the Vizsla Silver team and all of our consultants. The engineering and procurement for the project was significantly advanced during the feasibility study, which, coupled with the actual performance of the ongoing test mine, provides confidence in the results of the study. Project CapEx and OpEx remain in line with the preliminary economic assessment, and the study demonstrates the project will produce more than 20 million silver equivalent ounces annually over the first 5 years, averaging 17.4 million ounces over the life of the project, significantly exceeding the production profile outlined in the preliminary economic assessment. End quote. And then Michael Conard, who's the president and CEO of Vizsla Silver, stated, and I quote, we are very pleased to deliver a robust feasibility study on the Panuco project, outlining a high margin, low capex, silver focused precious metals operation. The study builds upon the strong economics outlined in the Panuco PEA, published in the summer of 2024, indicating that Panuco can become the next large scale silver primary producer in Mexico. Applying the updated higher grade resource estimate published in January 2025, production output in the feasibility study has increased significantly in the early years of the mine life relative to the preliminary economic assessment. This, combined with the improved commodity price assumptions, demonstrates a base case after tax NPV with a 5% discount of US 1.8 billion, an IRR of 111%, and a 7-month payback period at 35.50 US per ounce of silver and US 3,100 per ounce of gold. We expect to continue advancing both our underground and surface exploration proximal to the ongoing test mine to further grow the scale and quality of the deposit. Vizsla Silver would like to thank all of its employees, community members, and consultant contractors, including Ausenco, Mining Plus, SGS, SACH, and PwC, for their continued hard work in supporting our project. This very important milestone represents a key inflection point for the company, the Panuco asset, and all of our stakeholders as we advance towards production targeted for the second half of 2027. End quote. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot more details about this because I'm working on an interview with with a combination of both Michael Conard and Simon Smirlick. So stay tuned for that. And the next company I'm going to talk about is Newfound Gold. Newfound Gold and Maritime Resources announces closing of previously announced agreement or arrangement, sorry, creation of an emerging Canadian gold producer. Let me get this up and running here. So I'll go to Keith Boyle's comments. He stated, and I quote, he's the CEO of Newfound Gold. He stated, and I quote, in less than a year, Newfound Gold has transformed from an early stage exploration company to an emerging Canadian gold producer with camp scale exploration potential. Today, we see two high quality assets, the Queensway Gold Project and the Hammerdown Gold Project, located in a Tier 1 jurisdiction with strong synergies, come together at a time of highly favorable gold prices. Under the guidance of an experienced new board, the company's management team of mine builders and operators are focused on the path to production and continuing to deliver shareholder value. He goes on, the combined company is now producing gold. We could not have gotten to this point without the support of our local communities. For this, we give our thanks and look forward to continuing this journey with you. End quote. Then Paul Andre Hewitt, who's the chairman of Newfound Gold, he stated, and I quote, I am pleased to welcome Alan Palmiere to the board. Alan brings a depth of operational management and finance experience to the company, and his expertise on the maritime resources asset is of great value. On behalf of the board and the entire company, I would also like to thank our president, Melissa Render, for her service on the board. Garrett McDonald, who's the president and CEO of Maritime Resources, stated, and I quote, we're pleased with the completion of the business combination and are excited for Newfound Gold as it grows into Canada's newest mid-tier gold producer. I would like to recognize the efforts of Maritime's team who demonstrated determination and creativity to develop the Hammerdown Gold Project, as well as the solid support of our shareholders, local communities, and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador these past few years, end quote. So the combination of these two companies gives the new Newfound Gold production, uh, processing facilities, and this they can work in parallel with the work they're doing to bring their Queensway project into production. Queensway has very good potential to be a very long life mine that produces high grade gold at a modest cost. And so this is really the growth foundation for Newfound Gold. And yeah, that's the story. Take a look at that one. Okay, next up, I got Pan American Silver. Pan American Silver announced their unaudited third quarter 2025 results. Record attributable free cash flow of 251.7 million in the third quarter. Dividend increased to 14 cents per common share. Quote from Michael Steinman, who's the president and CEO. He stated, and I quote, Pan American generated record attributable free cash flow of 251.7 million in the third quarter, resulting in a cash and short-term investment balance of 910 million, plus an additional 85.8 million of cash at Juanicipio for the company's 44% interest. Given the strong cash flows the company is generating, the board has approved another increase to the dividend, raising it to 14 cents per common share with respect to the Q3 2025. We completed our acquisition of Mag Silver on September the 4th, And with only a 1 month contribution from our 44% interest in the Juanicipio mine, we are already significant, we are already seeing significant contribution to our silver segment operations and free cash flow generation. Consequently, we are raising our 2025 silver production guidance and lowering our estimated all-in sustaining cost for the silver segment to reflect Juanicipio's contribution to the portfolio. We are maintaining the remainder of our 2025 operating outlook, which continues to call for back-end weighted gold production. Added Mr. Steinman. While we are strengthened our asset base and growth opportunities through the MAG acquisition, we continue to advance our internal growth opportunities. At our La Colorado Skarn project, we are now exploring an exciting opportunity for a two-phase development plan, which has the potential to deliver a higher grade, lower tonnage, and less capital intensive first phase of development than initially envisioned, end quote. So great free cash flow, and their net cash position is quite impressive. I think it's in here somewhere. Their net cash, I think, is over a $500 million. You'll have to do that homework on your own. As always, look at all this data, but Pan American Silver, I picked them recently because I think that as the price of silver goes up, that they will outperform the movement in the price of silver quite substantially. They are my equivalent of the Agnico Eagle in gold when I picked them before in early 2024, before gold started making its series of record highs, and they outperformed gold's performance quite substantially. I think it was like 300% more. And Pan American Silver, I believe silver is going into a series of record highs. And so I think Pan American Silver will outdo the performance of silver. Orla Mining, they had their third quarter. They generated 93 million in free cash flow for the quarter, which is a record. Uh, Produced 79,000 ounces and sold 78.8, generating 275 million in revenue. All-in sustaining cost was $1,641 per ounce of gold sold, and they sold that gold, I think, at about 3,500, over 3,500 average throughout the quarter. Very impressive. That's what leads to records in free cash flow. They also did exploration and project expenditures to put money into the business to grow the free cash flow in the future. They had great success at Musselwhite with their initial exploration results confirm a potential 2 kilometer extension of the mine's main gold trend, indicating substantial potential to extend mine life and increase production. Folks, this mine has been in production for 28 years, and to make a step out of 2 kilometers, and it looks like you could extend it for many years into the future. Good quote in there. I'm running low on time here, so I'm going to leave it at that. I believe very strongly in Orla's future. I picked them before they brought their first mine, Camino Rojo, into production. It's been a great mine. Musselwhite's a great mine. They got their railroad project uh, in Nevada that looks great as well. That will come in probably within a couple years, and great future for that company. All right. Next up, Borealis Mining. I've already talked about them a couple times. They announced their first gold pour. There is their first gold pour that comes from they had a stockpile. They crushed that stockpile, put it onto the leach pad, and now they're starting to produce gold. in the first quarter of 2026. They're starting to take material from the known pits and bringing that into the onto the leach pad. And so this is sort of the start of steady state production that could go on for many years just on the Borealis mine as well. But then they also have another project called Sandman and Big Balds that look like they could also be future mines as well. So great business plan, great people running it. Eric Sprott and Rob McEwen are huge shareholders in the company. Collectively, I think they own about 25% of the company. Management owns a big chunk of it as well. And yeah, that's the Borealis story. Capitan Gold Silver is a new one I'm following now. Capitan intersects 1,767 grams of silver equivalent over 1.5 meters within a wider zone of 234 grams per ton of silver equivalent over 25.9 meters at the Jesus Maria silver trend. You can go over all the highlights. I'm actually probably going to do a deeper dive on this company because there's a very good chance that I'll be adding them to my pick list. So um, really impressive grades. These are what make the great mines in Mexico for silver deposits. It's in Durango, which is a great state for mining of silver. And they've got a really impressive project. I want to do a deeper dive on this one, so I'm going to leave it at that for today. Foran, I already talked about Foran. This is results from Tesla Zone, which is there further defines and expands the high grade mineralization. So as they are bringing their McIlvenna mine into production, they're concurrently doing drilling. And look at some of these grades: 33.4 meters grading 1.9% copper, 3.07% zinc, 19.7 grams of silver, and a half a gram of gold, which comes out to 3.09% copper equivalent grade over 33 meters. Great stuff. Results in strength and additional growth potential with northern and down dip extensions of mineralization. Main Tesla zone resource estimate expected for H2 2026. Um, yeah, this is one of their exploration targets on the overall project that is moving towards commercial production in 2026. Luca, Luca Mining uh, launches their 3-year, 25 million exploration project program to unlock exceptional gold potential at the Campo Morado and Tahuahito. I think I said that right. Got to practice my Spanish. I think I got that all right, but they got some good quotes from their VP Exploration and their CEO. I recommend you read that and the entire news release. I'm a big fan of Luca Mining, and that's another of my picks. And Sterling Mining, Sterling Metals, I talked about them earlier. They announced the upsize of a private placement of units and flow through to 14 million. I think the original amount was 10. So due to a strong demand, they are able to get 14 million. And look at the charity flow through portion of that is being done at $2.30. The stock is trading for about a dollar less than that. That's the bonus of having the ability to raise charity flow through funds is that you get a premium. I'm not going to go into the mechanisms of how that works out between the charity and their taxes and who buys it on the back end, but the net result is to the company they get their money at $2.30. Even their non-flow through is being priced at $1.50, which is above the oh is that for the as a non-brokered 5 unit at a price of $1.50 per unit. There you go. They get a half a warrant with that. So there you go. that is everything for today. I'm going to stop the share. As always, I don't make buying or selling recommendations. I'm only an idea generator. Um, it's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions and do that homework. Go to the company's websites, read over their reports, watch videos about them, be an informed person when it comes to the companies you're investing your money into. The reason I always say that is because the most informed investors are usually the most successful. That's true in the mining stocks as well as any sector. So do that homework. All right. Have a great day.